Today in the spotlight, understanding mental health and how organizations like Beyond Blue and Are You OK playing a major role in removing the stigma around it. Welcome to In the Spotlight. I am your host, Ruth. According to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions to his or her community. Research has proven that people with high levels of mental health have increased learning, creativity, and productivity. They are more pro-social and have positive relationships with improved physical health and life expectancy. On the other hand, poor mental health can cause distress and impact day-to-day functions and relationships. They are also associated with poor physical health and premature death from suicide. Did you know that 3 million Australians are currently experiencing anxiety or depression? Every day, 8 people take their own lives. Because this affects all of us, Beyond Blue are equipping everyone in Australia with the knowledge and skills to protect their own mental health. They're giving people the confidence to support those around them and making anxiety, depression, and suicide part of everyday conversation, and as well as tackling stigma, prejudice, and discrimination. They are breaking down the barriers that prevent people from speaking up and reaching out.
Now here's the thing. Every morning, Kirsty and her mother drive past Cole Brody's place. And every day, Kirsty waves to Cole. And every day, without fail, Cole waves back. So why didn't he wave back today? 20 years of amassing an amazing collection of rare albums, and today, Andy Chambers just gives them all away? Margaret Poulos never goes anywhere without her beloved dog, Layla. Yet, for some reason, she did on Tuesday. Every lunchtime at 1 p.m, Jackie meets her friend Christina Greenwood for a jog. And Christina never, ever runs late. Jamie Burney has never missed one footy training session in 3 years. Isn't it strange he didn't lob up on Wednesday? Every Sunday, Edwin Cheng religiously cleans his car. He couldn't be bothered cleaning it this particular Sunday. Really? There's no way that Maria Costa would ever let anyone walk into her house dragging dirt behind them. But last Tuesday, she did that herself. If there's two things Simon Casey knows for sure, it's that 1, he'll eventually be bitten by a dog, again, and 2, that David Silver of 23 Carbon Street will, as always, be at his letterbox at exactly 2:30 to meet him. When you notice a change in someone's behaviour, no matter how small, trust your gut instinct. Ask, are you okay? And start a conversation that could change a life.
One cannot ignore the fact that mental health is complex. If someone is not experiencing a mental health condition, does not mean that their mental health is flourishing. Similarly, it is also possible that if someone is diagnosed with a mental health condition, but they could be feeling absolutely fine in many aspects of life. Ultimately, mental health is about being cognitively, emotionally, and socially healthy in the way we think, feel, and develop relationships, and not merely absence of a mental health condition. Now, let's hear about the Are You OK campaign.
Are You OK Day grew out of a project that I started around looking to do something that inspired me and that was altruistic, something that could help other people.
Today is the day when we reach out to family and friends with a simple question.
Well, I'm an ambassador for Are You OK Day. I think you are too, aren't you? Yes.
Dad named his idea Are You OK Day. And I can remember the night he came home and told us about it. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it has become. And now look where I am, talking in front of you about Are You OK Day.
My father took his own life in 1995 and it was devastating.
So I've sort of cut off from everybody now. And in that time, if I hadn't spoken to anyone, it's only been someone in the shop to, order something or get a paper or some bread or something like that. And I've decided that tonight's the night that I'll finish my life.
The idea of finding something that would honour that memory but was consistent with the kind of guy he was important. We intentionally chose the strapline of Are You OK Day being a conversation could change a life because it actually is the one thing that all of us can do to make a real difference. Getting connected, staying connected is the best thing any of us can do both for ourselves and for anybody who may be at risk. That said, it's not just about those at risk. We want everybody in Australia, right across the spectrum of society, to just reach out to the people in their lives that they care about and essentially let them know that they do care by asking, are you okay?
Gav's never far away. I often think, what would Gav think about this? And I hope that he'd be happy with where we're going.
He'd be very happy. He would be very happy.
Every day we're hearing how people are having conversations that are changing lives. It's no longer a question for a single day. The conversations are happening every day of the year.
Every Australian, every human has that gut feeling when they know that something's not right with their buddy. And I think it's just about engaging them, getting together, having a chat, having a beer, doing what you usually do.
There are so many lonely people, and often people who know them just don't give them a thought.
When was the last time that you asked a mate or a colleague, are you okay? If it's been a while, it might be time you picked up the phone.
Just that conversation, that question changed my life.
Very heart-touching video there. Now let's go out and about and see what everyday Australians have to say.
The first time I considered it, I was 7 years old.
And it was the most confronting moment in my life.
I thought the best thing to do was not to be here anymore.
You just have to hold on to hope and just choose life.
Changed everything.
As a community, we need to talk about suicide a lot more than what we do.
If I can just help one guy prevent going through suicide or go through what I went through, then it's all worth it. Totally.
Absolutely. We're all become very accustomed to saying, are you okay? But we need to be able to follow up with that, because when somebody gives us an answer, we generally already know the answer before they tell us. To take that a step further and ask them, are you safe? Have you thought about harming yourself or suicide? It's okay to ask that, because you might be the only person that asks it, and it might be that one moment that the person says, you know what, I'm not okay and I'm not safe and I do need some help.
And you don't have to be a professional, right? It costs nothing to ask someone if they're okay. I know the challenge with a lot of people in asking it is, well, what happens if that person comes back and says, well, no, I'm not. What do you do with that information? You don't have to do anything with that information. You just need to be there and let them talk. No one actually ever wants to end their life. I don't think, right?
I think one of the biggest things about depression is that you feel a burden.
Yes.
And so you always feel like you're a negative on people. But if people come up to you and are genuinely interested in talking to you,
Yeah.
you feel less burdensome.
That's right.
Because you're like, well, someone's there to lift me up, and
That's right.
I'm not a burden to that because they've come to me.
What's the hardest thing about starting a conversation with someone you're worried about?
I think the hardest part about starting a conversation with someone that I'm worried about is that I might catch them by surprise. I think a lot of people are very good at hiding how they're feeling, and for me to notice that they're not feeling well and to say, hey, you're not yourself today, or are you not feeling great today, might throw them off, and that would surprise them.
There was definitely times where I did feel alone, but I found people who were also part of the trans community, and speaking to them helped a lot because they had a lot of similar experiences, and they could point me in the direction where I needed to go to get help.
It's a relief.
It really is.
It's a relief to talk.
To talk about it. And once upon a time I was very sheltered and didn't want to discuss anything and kept it all into in myself. But now, since I've been so open and honest about my journey, my story, I feel a sense of healing for myself as well as others.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a part of your healing and recovery.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel, that bottling things up and not being true to yourself and who you are, it's made my friendships better.
It's really, really hard to talk. Even now, 14, 15 years later, there's times when it's hard to talk, but I know the benefits. I know the difference it makes. Even just a slight conversation, we talk about ourselves and what we've both been through. I know what it's changed my life, and therefore my family, my friends, and so on.
Conversations can save lives. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors, and you don't know what's happening behind the facade that they're portraying. And if you ask, a simple question of, hey, how you doing? Is there, anything you want to talk about? They could be, you don't know it at the time, but they could be at their lowest point.
I agree, and I think conversations hopefully can save lives.
People have said that they can tell when someone's fire is burning low because the person at risk is not talking as much as they should be, not interested in the things that they love doing.
Because depression, in its most severe form, it cuts you, it strips you back, it strips you bare, and it leaves you really exposed. And I know what that's like. I didn't think I could ever be in that position. I didn't think that could ever impact on me. I thought I was immune to it.
I can't remember when I didn't have depression.
While people in the bush are really quite resilient, they do it tough quite a bit. Often they're working isolated and on their own in the paddock, and
they isolate themselves, go off on their own. They're not talking much to anybody else.
I'm told amounts of people now going through mental illness, and I think we have to remove this stigma so that these people can feel less alone.
You need to understand those things, what's happening to that person at risk, and need to understand that you have a fire that you can use to light the fire of the person at risk of suicide.
One of my colleagues actually came back to work after having her baby. I noticed some changes with her, and nobody else sort of picked anything up, but I went and spoke to her. I noticed she didn't seem to be herself.
If you look hard enough at people, you can tell if there's something wrong. So, and are you okay? How simple are those words, just simple and straight to the point.
Because some people don't want to tell you unless you ask. In fact, some people need to be asked if they're okay.
And 9 times out of 10, you'll get an answer, whether it's no or yes, you know.
And it's a question that you really want to hear. You got to be prepared for the answer.
It's important to keep a check on your mates, to make sure that they're going through things and to let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that you've got the support and mates or family that you choose.
We talk about everything and anything, and it's the best thing I ever did, because you're talking to someone that knows exactly what you're talking about.
That's the power of the conversation, and it's liberating. It's liberating for you, and it's empowering for you to say, well, gee, I can make that much difference to an individual. And if you can make that much difference to an individual, and that individual then walks away thinking, hey, this is okay to talk about this stuff. I'm not the only one that goes through it.
You know, all someone needs to do, friends, family or otherwise, is just pick up the phone and say, are you okay, mate? And that conversation can really make the difference.
Because all of us experience that in our lives. Watching out for each other, lighting each other's fire. Strength and resilience is what I hope for.
My pledge is to go above and beyond my duties as a mate, to go out if someone's looking out of sorts, go ask them, how are you travelling? Are you okay? What can I help? What can I do? And just to talk about it is such a relief to some people, to get that exposure or to get it off your chest. That can go a long way. These small things mean a lot to somebody that's depressed or broken down or going through a hard time.
People will help you. There's stuff out there, and yeah, the world's better with you in it, really. So don't just sit there and let it fester. Try and help, get help, because like for you.
You know, there's so much beyond what you think isn't there. You know, if you're struggling and all you've got is the depth and the burden and the weight and the loss and the confusion and the panic, what happens beyond that is remarkable.
It's important to speak up early with either friends, peers, work colleagues, someone that you trust. You must have faith and trust in the person.
There's quite a lot of services that you can reach out to, and, you know, visit your GP if you're not comfortable with your GP and what they've, you know, had to say. Go find another GP. Don't think that there isn't help out there, because I actually at some stage did think that there isn't help. There is plenty of help. Yeah, there is a lot of help.
Keep going, you know, try this, do that, you know.
And I'd certainly agree with you 100%. And I think the other thing to get out there is that there's various means of treatment.
Yes.
And ways of dealing with mental health issues. And whether it be biological with medication, whether it be men's groups, whether it be community groups, etc. There's lots of ways that you can help yourself with mental health issues. And it's just important to get that message out there.
Keep doing them.
Definitely.
My advice to anyone who's contemplating on taking their life is call a friend, someone close, someone who you feel would be the best to take you out of that situation. Because there's nothing worse than being alone when you're feeling like the world is collapsing around you. And my other advice would be also to Lifeline, have text now. Text, call them, hop on to Reach Out forums or Beyond Blue forums and check them out, because I swear the position you're in at that point, someone else is in it too. And those kind of things in that moment can be what you need just for support. Because sometimes talking on the phone to a professional, it's not something that someone can do at that point. You know, it's hard to say, I want to take my life. It's so hard to just say that sentence to someone. But then initially, if you don't want to say it, type it. Just do something. Do something.
are the signs? You're normally very warm, very open. So sometimes it's really obvious. You answer in monosyllables, you don't smile very much. Probably start eating more of the wrong food than the right food. Watch too much TV, and you don't really engage in conversation. You might be just, yeah, no, you know. So I think the fact that we are quite close, that sometimes we know each other well, and we can pick up the signs that maybe we need to ask how you're going. Sitting fairly close to each other so that we're almost physically in contact, and I can look at you and sometimes put my arm around you and ask with all of me, really deeply, are you okay? I think one of the things about being a woman and a mother and an auntie is that I have really strong instincts around caring and protecting. And when someone in my family is in distress or under stress, then I just listen to my inner mother and I set her free. And sometimes more than one person needs to know that we're struggling. And, you know, we need to weave a bit of a net around you. And we need more than one person to be able to do that. Sometimes your issue's so big that it's impossible for one person to hold all that. How did talking to me help you?
It's like a relief. Yeah. I know I can give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I'm not going to tell fibs as opposed to...
You can try.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you.
I like to think when I ask the question too, that's like I quite deliberately want you to find that release, to find a bit of relief in.
It wasn't easy at first. No, so, you know, it takes you're going to peel me back layer by layer pretty much.
Yes,
yeah.
my favourite onion. Sometimes it is about being really honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes that honesty is not easy to hear. Sometimes we do need to say, hey, pull yourself together. Because we know what you're capable of. And I think sometimes as your auntie and as somebody who loves you, it's my responsibility to help you see that other way out. You know, sometimes it gets dark, but I can see light at the end of the tunnel where you may not. And so, if I'm ever in doubt, ask anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So. Thanks,
You know.
Having gone through some tough times myself, I know it is very hard, but it's not impossible to come out from the dark side. You know what they say, what we change inwardly will change outer reality. Thank you for watching us today. Good night.